Hey, everybody, welcome to Pink Shade. It's Thursday. It's the Pop and Bravo edition of Pink Shade, and I've got my friend here. It's Gibson Johns of Gabbing with Gib. Gibson, thanks for joining me to talk about pop culture and Bravo.
Of course, always love our chats, and
Love it.
I feel like I've gotten a couple of positive reviews recently on my show because of people that found me on your show. So
Really?
yes, yeah. So the cross promotion works. So I still have to. I haven't had you on mine, but I have to repay the favor because it's been great
Oh,
talking
I
with you.
love that. Yes,
Yeah,
I'd love to come anytime. I'm always loving a cross
yeah.
promo, and I love all the stuff you're doing. You get some really good interviews over there.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it pays to have had a history in actual media. Like I
Hmm.
was like at a corporate media company for a while.
Hmm.
So that's they've been nice to still give me access with the podcast, but
Yeah.
you know, but
You
I sometimes I enjoy our like the discussions like this even more.
You got a lot of traction because you had Chanel Ion on,
Yeah.
and she was saying that she did not know that Survivor was a what did she say? It was something
She
so
said she was
wacky.
like she was like, you know, when I was in the castle, I thought that they all were talking about Survivor, Survivor, Survivor. I thought they had all survived things that I had survived, like Ebola, genital mutilation, like all these different viruses. And then she was like, it wasn't until I left the show that I realized there was a show called Survivors, and she called it Survivors. So even then, her and Dorinda have both called the show Survivors with an S.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
that I love it. I can't get enough of this crossover.
I have been watching the Traitors, and so when this comes out on Thursday, we still won't have the next episode because they drop
Right.
it at night, like old school must see TV.
Which I
I think
love. I
I
love that about it. Yeah.
I like that about it too, and I think they do that with White Lotus too, which is
hmm
also coming up.
Yep.
And I feel like they might do that with Yellow Jackets as well.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said, at least from my perspective, of like appointment television. It's like
Mhm.
if I'm at home on a Thursday night, I'm signing on to Peacock at 9 p.m. to
Yeah.
watch it, and I'm tweeting along with it, and I'm like,
Mhm.
part of the reaction is part of the fun, and like I have access to the screeners ahead of time. I don't watch them because
Mhm.
I want to experience it with everybody. That to me like adds value to the traders experience,
Yeah.
and like I had Robin on my podcast after she got out, but
Yeah.
I recorded that was scheduled before I knew she was out or she was going to be out. So like it was a spoiler for me and I was like, fuck, like I actually don't want to know. I
Yeah,
don't want to know
yeah.
when people get out because it's fun to watch it with people. It really is.
It is one of those shows, and I'm like, I was telling you before we started, I've been sort of pre-recording a lot of this Love is Blind stuff
Yeah.
because what I like to do is when the Love is Blind comes out, they do 6 at once. And
That's a
so
lot.
I put out 6 at once, and I complain about it every time, but because it's just a lot of pre-work. But boy, oh boy, I got to tell you, for people that are going to be watching it next week when it comes out on Friday, February 14th, it's really good, Gibson.
I
Really
believe it.
good.
I believe it. And, I think with that, though, that's so smart because when they drop six at once like that, people are binging that.
Yeah.
And that's essentially it's not the full season, but it's 6 episodes could be a full season of any show. So
Yes,
it's like
totally.
people are looking for that commentary and that sort of something to walk them through it. So like I think
Yeah.
that's perfect. But I'm excited. I love Love is Blind. That's the only Netflix reality show that I really watch because I can't do all the other ones, but Love is
Yeah.
Blind gets me every time.
A couple other good ones they had where they had Indian matchmaking is great. That's a
Oh, okay.
great show that Netflix had. We covered that, and Jewish matchmaking as well. But Indian matchmaking is really good. Really
Oh,
good.
I've heard good things. The other one I actually did watch around the holidays was Later Daters. I loved that show. Did you watch that?
Everybody said it was great, but it was like so much going on. I
Yeah.
didn't get to it, and
It's a
now
quick
it's too
watch.
late.
Yeah.
But
But if
every
you're looking for something to watch and not have to cover for yourself, honestly, it's kind of a
yeah,
fun, light thing to throw on because it's pretty entertaining.
I heard it was great. It was
Yeah.
produced by Michelle Obama, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's not
Pretty
gonna
cool.
put out any trash, we hope. Um, okay, well, you're gonna be into White Lotus and Yellow Jackets and these
Oh
things that are
yeah.
coming out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me
I have
too.
to balance out my reality TV viewing with like the higher brow stuff just to
Me
make me feel
too.
better about life. So
Me too. You got to go like I watched The Bear.
yeah.
I watched Slow Horses. I watched that on
Oh, I haven't done
Apple.
Slow Horses. I heard that's amazing. I haven't done that one yet.
What about Severance? I haven't done that. Everybody says it's so good.
I watched Severance. I have only watched the first episode of the new season, and I had trouble getting back into it because like it had been so long since that first
Mm,
season, and
mhm.
the freaking recap of the season one they aired before the first episode of season two was like it felt like it was 2x speed and it was only 3.5 minutes and it was like so much packed in there, and I was like, I don't even know what they're talking about. Like I
This is what
really
I've heard. I've heard that Severance is
it's
very
really been it's
confusing.
been a struggle for me to like get back into like what's actually going on that show. I'm
Okay.
going to continue with the second season, but I'm not like roped back in yet, you know.
It has like a sci-fi type of element to
Oh
it or
yeah.
something?
Yeah, the concept is that there's these people who work in this office, and when you
Yeah.
leave the office, you're severed. So like you don't know what like your work self and your outside of work self are totally different, and the brains are like disconnected. Like you don't the memories are separate. You don't know what's going on in either one. So yeah, it's definitely a little sci-fi
Well, it's an
fantasy.
interesting concept. It's an interesting concept for sure. Sometimes I wish I could sever my brain.
Oh yeah, same.
Just go
You and me
downstairs
both.
and veg out. Okay, and the Traitors, of course, we're loving the Traitors.
Loving,
Loving.
loving, and, like, as much as it's been a frustrating experience just as, like, a Bravo fan, you know, because they targeted the Housewives at first,
So
we're s
upsetting.
so upsetting, we were robbed of so much good TV, but
Mhm.
that being said, it doesn't mean that we haven't gotten good TV otherwise, you know, it's just been I think we were so spoiled last season because of Phaedra and because of, you know,
So
the
good.
Bravo people getting so far and, like, having all these really great moments,
Yeah.
and we didn't get those this season, so it's been a different kind of season, but, like, I've still very much been, like, totally plugged in. I mean, the episode where they banished Bob the drag queen, that round table was thrilling. I don't know,
Me. It
the
was
round tables to
incredible,
me
and then
are
he got up and did his
yeah.
speech. I was like,
Oh,
"Yes,
the
so
round
good."
tables to me are they're just so juicy. I just love
Mhm.
it. Like, even
Mhm.
if they're so wrong, like, some of them are so determined and they're so wrong,
Yeah.
that's part of the fun, you know? Like I like the balance of people who are super into it and the ones who are super into it and right, ones who are super into it and
Yeah.
wrong, the ones who are literally just there to make good TV.
Yeah. I mean, if Tom Sandoval hasn't come across as the stupidest person to ever grace our
Oh my
television.
god. That clip of him eating, like, standing up at the in the dining he is shoveling that food into his mouth, like, he is scarfing that shit down like he hasn't eaten in days, and then Gabby walks in, she sees him, and she goes, "Ugh."
He's like, "Are you
That
carbo loading? Like, what are you
no,
doing,
literally,
bro?"
what's
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on there? And
yeah.
he's, like, sweating and like,
He's
it's
always
really
sweating.
uncomfortable, but, it's I think one of the positives or silver linings of having the Housewives voted out so early or murdered so early is that some of the other people who maybe, like, would have gotten overshadowed, I think, are having moments. So, like, I'm
Yeah,
loving Gabby, like, I think she's gotten a lot of good airtime, I think she's so entertaining.
very
Um,
entertaining.
I watch Big Brother, and Brittany from Big Brother is actually really funny, and she's starting to get some good. I mean, when Sandoval was talking to her about how he thinks it's Dolores, and she was like rolling her eyes, I was laughing my ass off. Like,
Yes.
some of these other women, I think, are getting some moments in because Dorinda isn't there to take up all the airtime. You know,
Is Danielle from Big Brother, was she good on
she
Big
is.
Brother? Because she's
She
not great on this show.
she's like a Big Brother legend, but she hasn't been.
Really?
Yeah, but she's kind of an old school player, and I
Okay.
think that it's kind of what happened with Dan last season, who was also a traitor from Big Brother with Phaedra. Like,
Yeah,
some of these old school game players, they're not as with it with like the sort of the new style of gameplay, and also they just take themselves so seriously, you know, and
yeah.
I think that's shooting themselves in the foot.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it, and I am sorry about Dorinda leaving because I saw some press she did where she was like, "No, I studied, like, the art of war." I was like, "Of
Right,
course Dorinda,
right.
like, studied
She like
for
read it
it."
twice or something.
Yeah, and
It
other
was
people are like, "We don't
amazing.
even know what show we're
I know.
on," you
The
know?
fact that we didn't get just one round table with Dorinda is a crime. Like, that is an offensive thing to me that Dorinda was not able to be at one round table where she would have popped off. She would have.
I hope they bring her back like they did with Kate
I
Chastain,
know.
just, like,
I
randomly
know.
drop her in. I would be like, it
I
would be
know.
so good.
I
They
know.
really need to make Tom Sandoval a traitor just because he's so dumb that nobody would ever suspect it. He could probably win the whole thing.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, people are saying, like, "Oh my God, can you believe that Tom Sandoval's still there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can," because he's a good shield for the traitors. He's not very smart. He's not
Yeah.
getting any of it right. It makes sense for them to keep him there. It does.
And same with that Ivar guy, like, who
Oh my
why are we
God.
bringing on these random British people? It's like, if he was like a British reality star, but somebody said he was on some British reality show, but I can't I mean,
But
but we
like,
don't
if
know
he
about it.
was, there's no way he was memorable because he is showing no personality. He's
Right.
gotten like 3 words in. That's the same with Britney Spears' ex-husband. It's like I get the idea behind like, oh, like a British, royal
Yeah.
adjacent person or like Britney's ex. Yeah, like in theory, but like they have no personality. At least Dylan Efron like has a sort of star quality and sort of
Love
a
him.
charm in his eye. Yeah, he's so
Yeah.
watchable and he's smart. And who was the guy last season? The British guy, John something. He was hilarious, and he
John
was like
something,
good.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was good on TV. So they do these random castings, but like go off personality. Get people with actual like I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. I did like him explaining about his name, Mountbatten, and I was like, "Oh, at least I know that name." But
Right,
who cares? But I guess just
right.
keep him around because he's like a dud. So he's
But he's
like,
taking up space. Yeah,
don't waste a vote on him, I guess, is
I
sort
know.
of the thought
Totally.
process. I totally forgotten about Sam, Britney Spears' ex-husband, until you said that. Every time somebody says Sam, I go, I think it's a girl. I'm like, it's a girl named Sam. No, oh, every time
Actually,
I
same. I have the same experience. Yep.
forget about him completely, him and his headbands. Um, well, let's chat about the Salt Lake. So you and I, as of this taping, have only seen part 1 and 2 of the reunion. We haven't seen part 3 yet, which will
Right.
air Wednesday night. But
Tonight.
guys, we're recording this on Wednesday, so excuse us for not discussing. But the part 2 of the reunion I thought was really good. We had the whole part about Mary and her son,
Hmm.
Robert Jr. Um, and I did like that Mary said, which I don't think got too much attention, that Mary said that her husband said he was proud of her for how she was handling it.
Me
And
too.
I think that means a lot to her, more than she tried to act like. I think she looks to him for approval, even though that whole situation, of course, we all know about it. It's very strange.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that we heard that too. And I forget if maybe it was on Wash Happens Live after that, I want to say,
Hmm.
where she was like, Robert Sr. does not say things that he doesn't mean. Like he's not
Right.
going to say something just to sort of blow smoke or to appease you.
Hmm.
For him to say that, I think means even extra knowing how he is. And so that's really nice that he said that, especially that now that we know that he feels some type of way about the show and being on camera. So
Hmm.
like for him to watch that scene and to approve of it, not that she needs his approval, but like for him to sort of co-sign that is really nice. It's
Yeah.
really nice. It's a united front as a family.
She looked great on Watch What Happens Live, showing that flowy thing with that big gold necklace. She looked great.
She's looking great. I think she's looking great in general. Like I think Mary is just sort of across the board. She's figured it out, I think, in a lot of different ways. And like it's been to me, it's been honestly the best part of the whole season. Like I think without the Mary element of this season, would have been a great season, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But she provided both emotional and comedic balance.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
that's a hard role to play, to do both of those things. And
Mhm.
she did both of them very well.
Well, I think that they kind of touched on the fact that she was such, like, showed up for work basically this season, really, for in her opinion, was because she felt she really actually had a friend in Angie. Now, we
Hmm.
always thought she had a friend in Meredith, and I don't think she was downplaying it. I think she was just more like, for something, she and Angie really connected more so than she and Meredith. Maybe with Meredith, she felt like it was just a friend for the show, but with Angie, she felt like an actual friend.
Yeah, and I think that I wonder if she didn't even realize that until she got so close with Angie on such a deep level. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it was sort of like relative to her suddenly deep friendship with Angie. She's like, oh wait, maybe Meredith and I weren't as close. We didn't go as deep as Angie and I have gone.
Mhm.
Um, but I did like that. Like ultimately, by the end of that segment, we got a hug and we got "I love you, Meredith." And then I also liked, which I think could be a nice little thread for next season, how Mary was like, Angie, we got to get you on good terms with Meredith because I love you both. She basically said something
Uh-huh.
along those lines. And I thought that was a nice little breadcrumb for like, okay, can Mary finally bring together Angie and Meredith? Is it a lost cause? Will she be torn between them? That's kind of an interesting dynamic, I think.
Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about that part. Now, please remind me, because as I was like typing notes up real quick to talk to you,
Yeah.
Meredith got all mad. I was like, I'm going to leave. You will leave. I will. Everybody's always leaving. I was like, what was she mad about? So she was mad about that Angie's husband went on a podcast and was pointedly and led into being asked about Brooks. And
Right.
did we think that Meredith was using Brooks's sexuality to promote her LGBTQ? I was like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Why is Meredith mad? I'm
So
confused.
that's why Meredith was mad at Angie and Sean, that she thinks that
Okay.
they accused her of using Brooks's sexuality to like, get in with the LGBTQ community and like whatever, which it was definitely a leading question based on that clip that they played. But the reason why she threatened to storm out goes back to why Angie is mad at Meredith, which is that she thinks that Meredith is behind spreading the rumors that Sean was gay. And that was
Got it.
last season.
Okay.
And basically Angie was like, Monica told me that you were behind them, that you were spreading the rumors that my husband's gay.
Mm-hmm.
And Meredith is like, no, Monica said on camera last season that I had nothing to do with it.
And then we
And
saw
so,
those dueling clips.
and so
Yes.
basically, of course, we're arguing over Monica being a reliable narrator, which is like, we've known for a year at this point that is, those two things don't go together. Monica is
Right.
not a reliable narrator.
Right.
And we see these two clips from the same scene. It's like an après party they had last year,
Mm-hmm.
where Monica says two polar opposite statements about these rumors. And they both are right. Angie's right that Monica said this, and Meredith is right that Monica said this. And so it's sort of like, get the Monica factor out of there. Let's not go. I understand that that Angie wants to be like, I believed this because Monica told me. And Meredith wants Angie to believe her that Monica admitted that but it's sort of like, this is from a year ago. Let's move on. Let's move on.
The best thing about that après ski party was when Mary looked at Heather and goes, do you like that necklace that you're wearing? And Heather goes, I do. And she goes, you do? No. So good. I love Mary.
So good. That was a great pull. That's a great pull. I love that.
that was the funniest thing about it. Was she was like, do you like that
funny.
necklace that you're wearing? She's like, yeah. She's like, you do. Huh.
Listen,
Okay.
if anything, Mary's a truth teller. And you need somebody like that in your life.
God, she's
hard truths.
There's this guy on TikTok, and it really is not funny when you just go, this person on TikTok, and I'll try to send it to you if you don't know who I'm talking about. But it's a guy on TikTok that does impressions of Mary Cosby. But he'll say
lip syncing.
No, he's doing it. He's doing it himself. He'll say somebody will give him. It's like an improv where the people yell out like a scenario or something.
Uh-huh.
He'll go, okay, Mary Cosby at her child's school on the playground. And it'll be like,
oh, that's fun.
It'll be like, did somebody tell you it was okay to eat that sand? Really? Really? That's disgusting. You're gonna get a bowel obstruction. Really?
Oh,
really?
I need to see this.
Oh, it's so funny, you guys. I will if I can remember, if my brain works when I write the notes for this, I'll link that guy's TikTok because it is so
love it.
funny. My daughter sends me one of those about every single day, and
I love it.
My main concern when TikTok went down briefly was, how am I going to watch this guy's content? Like, how am I going to find him on Reels? Because I can't even remember his name. I'm just like that guy that does Mary Cosby,
That's exactly how I felt when TikTok went down. I was like, all these people who I love, like, I'm not going to find them on Instagram. No.
How will I find them?
I'm not.
Okay. And so Bronwyn and Todd, let's talk about what we went over about that. I was surprised that Todd went to the reunion. Aren't you? He sat there and took it.
Yeah, I vacillate with Todd between him hating the show and wanting nothing to do with it, and him really liking the limelight.
Yeah,
and I think that both maybe are kind of true. I think he wants to sort of have his cake and eat it too. I think he likes being on the show. I went to this event in November in New York that was like Bronwyn, Mary, and Angie doing some ice cream thing in New York, and Todd showed up, and he really liked all the attention and all the cameras around him. I could tell, he was smiling big. And I think there's a perception online that he just hates the show. And I don't think it's that simple. I really don't. So I was surprised he was at the reunion in some ways, but also not.
Interesting. I think that because they got so much heat on their relationship right away, where it looked like he was like this controlling old man, like a
Totally.
Svengali type, and it's like, oh, she's obviously on this show just to divorce him. They got a lot of that, so they do seem to now be having a pretty united front. But the whole thing about her saying he cheated on me. And then she's like, I mean, it was an emotional affair. And then she's like, I wouldn't even really say it was that. Like, okay, what happened? Like,
It's tough for me because it reminds me a lot about the thing from part 1 of the reunion, which is the jewelry thing, and it's a thing
mhm.
where in season, we got one story.
Mhm.
On Watch What Happens Live, after those episodes, we got another story
Yep.
where we're slowly walked back, and then at the reunion, it's completely walked back, and it's sort
Mhm.
of like these are obviously, these 2 different things are very, very different levels of sort of like, you know, stakes, it's like a
Mhm.
diamond necklace versus like your marriage.
Yeah,
But
right.
I think the fact that we're getting different stories in both capacities really makes me question sort of some of the how reliable Bronwyn can be as a narrator, and
That's a
and
great
and
point.
and how Todd impacts that, because I think it's very clear that the story's changing because of him and
Yeah.
him getting in her ear, and I don't know if that's like, don't air this out on TV, or don't make me look like that, or it wasn't, or the other option is, on the boat in Mexico, was she embellishing it from the start? Like, who, like, it's one or the other for
Right.
me, and I don't believe it was nothing, personally.
Yeah, for her to tell that story and then to be like, and my daughter is the one that looked over his shoulder and saw that he was whatever he was doing, and
Protecting.
then at the reunion, they they mentioned the fact that it must be very hurtful because it was Gwen, and he looks like he kinda
Oh,
tears up
he did not know that she had said that she had said that, I don't
because
think,
he said
or
I
that it
had
was Gwen.
yeah, he said I hadn't watched it, and then
Yeah.
she was going, "It's okay, you're okay, it's okay." Which was
Well,
kind of interesting, and the whole
she
thing about
patted his knee.
but the necklace, you're right, there's 3 stories, right? There's the one we saw on the show where she bought this $3 million necklace. Then on the reunion, she says like, "Oh, because she found out the jeweler talked about her, she decided not to do business with that jeweler." But then I Watch What Happens Live, she was like, "Oh, no, I was never planning to buy that. Of course, it's a loaner in this economic climate, I would never." Well, which
Right.
is
Oh,
it?
that
You
line
know?
really irked me when she was like, "In this climate, like, you think I'm gonna," it's like, "Ma'am, like, you wear designer clothes on every
Ri
episode and
every
talk about
single
it,"
episode,
it's
yeah.
like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I watch Housewives for the
Yeah.
aspirational, escapism, but, like, I don't know, it's, yeah, you're right, it's like the 3 different stories, and it just gives me pause. It gives me pause.
Yeah, and then the thing about, like, is it really true what she said about the emotional affair, and then Gwen seeing it and all that, is that it's sorta like what my dad says, like, you could tell a story, but if you put a little something on it, it's like, "Oh, it makes a better story," you know?
Totally, and the best
You know?
storytellers embellish, but I feel like this is different from that in terms of, like, what's the truth,
'Cause you don't
you
wanna make your
know?
husband look like a cheater if he's not a cheater, and
Yeah,
I don't know, I
and
don't
I think
know.
I think that, like, I almost feel like every single one of the women is a little bit has, like, a slight hesitancy with her now, because
Totally.
Heather's instinct about her has kind of been proven to be correct in some
Mhm.
ways, and we heard from Whitney that they all went to dinner after the reunion except for Bronwyn and Mary, but she sort of implied that Bronwyn wasn't invited. Bronwyn has since said, like, "Oh my god, so much has been made about this. Like, I was already at home when they told me about it." But it's telling. It's telling that they all were at dinner
Mhm.
except for her, to me.
Did Brittany go to dinner?
They didn't say Brittany wasn't there and she was at
Yeah.
the reunion. I'm excited for Brittany's part in part 3, honestly. I
Uh,
am.
okay, so also alright, speaking of Brittany, so did you watch, Sold on SLC?
I only watched the premiere.
Okay, so I watched the whole thing, we covered it over on our, Prime feed, and I interviewed Malaysia and Sarah from the show, who were great. That Sarah both of them really, I shouldn't even say both of them are complete stars. They are
Uh-huh.
complete reality stars, both of them. Malaysia 100% could just
Love.
lean to the left and be right on Mom Talk. I mean, she looks just like them.
Yeah,
And then
totally.
Sarah is quick and spicy. She's Brazilian, great. The whole show was great. And there was a complete crossover with Mom Talk because Taylor Frankie Paul's mom is part of
Right.
Presidio.
Was she on
And
the show?
Brittany just joined Presidio from Salt Lake City.
So should they just put Brittany on Sold on SLC?
Yeah. I think because they made such a big announcement about it, that might be what's going to
Oh,
happen because she
interesting.
just wasn't
Okay.
maybe quite a fit for Housewives. But yeah, that show and the crossover, I was like, every time I would talk to these people, they're like, they call it Small Lake City. They call it Small Lake City. There's this whole scene on Sold on SLC where they're talking about like upside down pineapple meaning swingers. And people are like, is that really a thing? And I'm like, Taylor Frankie Paul's mom is right there. Her daughter is the one that put it on TikTok. Like, what are we doing?
Truly. Like, let's connect that dot here. Come on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to New York. So we've had part 2 of the reunion
Whew.
now.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Bryn just initially, and maybe even as we finished, not fully understanding her words really being damaging to Uba, saying Uba knew that she had been sexually assaulted and was saying all this stuff about her, saying she, sucked dick for her job or whatever. And really not getting it. And Jenna breaking it down to her like a toddler.
Yep.
And she still seemed to just not get it.
She didn't get it. And I think at a certain point, the women realize that almost, it's like, they're not going to get through to her in a complete way. I think that
Yeah.
she got some of it, but not enough of it. And what was so interesting to watch, I thought on part 2 was like, and Bryn's been doing this forever, but it really kind of was very laid out for me, was Bryn will repeat something using different wording that's more beneficial to her, makes her look better. She'll
Makes a
say,
better story.
no, more like, I said it this is what I said to you. And the other women will be like, no, we all heard you say it this way.
Got it.
And she and then she'll back up. She'll be like, why are you guys so hung up on my wording? Even though she knows that she
Right.
repeated the wording that is more beneficial to her.
Got it.
So it's like she it's this really kind of circular thing that like almost confuses you. But like, no, like 5 of them are not going to say you said that Uba might not have clocked it if she didn't say that. Like
they're using that specific term, clocked it.
Yes. And whereas Bryn says that she said it very differently in a way that like makes her look better. It doesn't make her look as like resolute that like Uba. So yeah, she's a very frustrating person to watch. And I think also it's hard. It's this difficult thing where it's like, I believe she was sexually assaulted. And I also believe that some of this response is sort of tied into that, the fact that she hasn't fully worked through the trauma. That's not to excuse how she framed Uba and like how she like lies about a lot of things. But and I'm not an expert on any of that, but it feels all connected to me, in a way that's really hard to untangle. But it was a very, I mean, listen, it's been a compelling reunion from that show, very unexpectedly, but
yes,
it's also very frustrating and very joyless to watch. So it's two things can be true for me.
I was very surprised after Uba is looking at her dead in her eye. I will never forgive you. I will never speak to you again. I will never have anything to do with you. Basically, like, you're dead to me. And then to sort of switch and be like, I feel bad for her and I'm going to hug her and tell her I'm sorry. And what Uba is just saying over and over is you have to apologize to all the women and she's taking it even off herself.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Uba is doing that. Like, if you want to keep this job, I don't know if that's the subtext that we're not getting here.
I think it is. I think that's part of the, I think that because also towards the end, somebody was like, we're not icing you out. We're not trying to, not trying to push you out, which is, I think they must have recognized that was also part of her sort of shutting down too, was like, holy fuck, like I'm off this show. Like they all hate me. Like there's no way back for me. And that's where Uba, when they had that, I thought the moment where they're both on the soundstage with nobody else, they had that wide shot of them sort of.
When Andy comes up, is like, I just got to get my phone.
Right. But like, but like that wide shot of them and that little moment they shared, like that was a pretty powerful moment to me. But what Uba was telling her in that moment was like, it's not too far gone. It's not but I do think that for Uba, and I don't want to speak for her or whatever, but I kind of feel like for her, it's too far gone. I think that in the moment she was alleviating some of Bryn's guilt and sort of anxiety about that just so they could like move on. But I don't think I think what Uba said when she was sitting across from her is right. I think she's done with her. I do.
I think she's done with her too, but I think she's like, to maybe keep you on the show, to make the
Right.
world not hate you, I'm
Yeah.
going to it was just such a shocking
Yeah, it really
turn that
was. Yeah.
Uba really took that high road.
Yeah.
And, wow, let me tell you something. What really came across on this episode was they really hate old, Becky Minkoff.
Oh my God.
They
That was
hate her.
crazy. And I don't like her. I really don't like her. But the way that they edited that, even when she was done talking and they sort of lingered on it, like, anybody else have anything else to say to Rebecca? They said it
Mm-mm.
twice and nobody said anything. And then they sort
No.
of, it was like they kept in the awkward silence. And to me, that means that like production was done with her too.
And
You know
also
what I
they're like,
mean?
"We are trying to ice you out."
Oh, beyond. Like, and listen, she brought one compelling thing to the show, which was Scientology,
Mhm.
and she brought talking points with it. She talked around it. She gave no direct answers. That was bullshit to me, and I was like, I was so glad to see her gone because it was just like such a we were gonna get nothing from that, nothing.
It's so interesting. So if anybody's listened to any, Going Clear
Yeah,
or Mike Render, RIP, or Leah Remini, anything, that very specifically, you cannot be two religions. You cannot be Scientology and something else. She has said, like Tom Cruise one time said, talking to Oprah about it, or somebody said like, "Oh no, Katie Holmes, she can be Catholic. You can be Catholic and Scientologist." And Leah Remini is like, "That's a complete joke. That is not true." So for her to be on camera and be like, "Oh, I identify as Jewish. It's very important to me, but Scientology is equally as important." No, no, no. Scientology doesn't allow that.
well, also
And
you
that's not
can't
true.
also in the season they asked her about this and she says, yeah, Judaism is my religion and
Mhm.
Scientology is an applied philosophy. That's what she called it.
Mhm.
And then on this reunion, suddenly it's a hate crime and it's hate speech
Mhm.
and a bigoted term to call Scientology a cult because that's her
Mhm.
religion. And it's like, well, which is it, babe? You know,
And
which
yeah.
is it?
Yeah, and she also said it is a world accepted, worldwide known religion. Yeah, it is. It's considered a
Yeah,
501(c)(3) or whatever, and it gets all the tax exemptions, which if Leah Remini does anything with her
bullshit.
last breath, she'll get
Yeah,
that taken away,
100%.
tax exempt status. Um, but I think that she got the talking point of, "Oh, no, no, no. It is don't say that because we want to be accepted as a religion for the tax purposes."
Exactly. And then yeah,
I
and that
love that
and that's
I love Aaron
oh
also
my God.
said, "I used your talking points."
Listen, because she sort of came in as Aaron's friend, and I had not realized that she had turned on Becky so much too, and I
Wow.
love to see that. Like that was visceral, like because it involved her dad and then not like checking up on her and whatever.
Yeah.
And she kept on talking about her tone when she talked about her, and it's like
Yeah.
Aaron wanted to play by Rebecca's rules for the
Yeah.
sake of just like being a good friend to her, which I understand. But then she was like, "Fuck that,"
No.
and
She was
you
like, "I
know,
used your approved talking points by the church," or whatever, and I was like, "Oh, this is
I know.
rough."
And I think that gets into like something that just generally speaking about the reunion that I thought was a good thing about this. And this is a show that I've been very critical of, is
Mhm.
that I think that there were some interesting fourth wall breaking elements to this reunion where they talked
Mhm.
about a lot of the tension that I was annoyed by in season, which is like saying things off camera and being different and all these different things. They addressed all that on this reunion in a way that I felt was really compelling and interesting. And
Mhm.
it's like, I don't know if they would lean into that at all in the actual season because we know that a reunion's a very different environment. But like,
Mhm.
if they were to do that a little bit more, I think it would benefit the show. I really do because those are the layers that we're working with here. It's these women who are scared to look bad on TV,
Yeah.
and if they were to be able to like do that, I think it would help them. I do. I do.
I see a world where they return Raquel,
Me too.
Genocide, Jessel, Aaron, and Bryn and Uber are question marks. I don't know if Uba wants to do it anymore.
I know. Well, the hard part is that like Uba had a bad season until
Yeah.
that very end. Until the very end when everybody felt for her. How could you not? But like
Right.
she did not have a good season. And like
Mm.
most of the season I was like, I don't really need her to come back, you know? And
Yeah.
so it's this weird tension where there was a complete 180 and sort of how you felt about her and whatever. I do think that like, and I was talking to somebody about this texting after the reunion last night, you know, a big issue with the show has been that they aren't real friends, that they like don't have any
Right.
history together, whatever.
Mhm.
And maybe it took like a traumatic trauma bonding moment like this, totally
Mhm.
unexpected. You could never have like invented this situation.
Right.
Maybe that's what it takes for them to sort of like I mean, watching that reunion, it's like, oh, these people do have history. They have things to unpack with one another, and maybe that's this big moment sort of alleviate some of that pressure to like prove that, you know, they like now they know like we've gone through shit together, like real
Mhm.
shit. Like that was a crazy trip.
Yeah.
We got
Yeah.
we went home early because of it.
Yeah.
So maybe that frees them up in some ways for a third season together. So I think you're right. I think they'll bring back most of them. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. And again, it's like I was talking to somebody last week about it. Like if there is a throughway between, say, Raquel and Jenna in this
Hmm.
kind of artistic world, and maybe somehow Jessel and her like PR job knows somebody, and there's like a person that they all have known through the years going that like, okay, so this will be a person that they all sort of know differently, and that could be a throughway to make, because now they
I
are sort
agree.
of bonded over the show. But I would just like somebody in there that is an old time friend of somebody.
I'm so with you. I'm so
Yeah.
with you that's the missing element. You even add two of them, even add two
Yeah.
people. It's just it's somebody who they're all that more of them are connected to organically for longer.
Yeah.
That's one thing, and the other is just somebody who can get shit going as for a reality show. Like whether that's somebody who with experience on reality TV or to somebody with a personality that would just like undeniably work in this environment who like isn't afraid of conflict. Because even like watching Aaron and Uba like, next to each other on that couch sort of try to work things out, and Uba was just like shutting it all down. I mean, when they were trying to criticize her, like she does not take criticism well, and she does not
Mm-mm.
admit any wrongdoing, and that's really frustrating because I saw in Aaron somebody who was trying to have like a dialogue, which is like that's good. We got to like talk it out, but for I was like, if I could replace one person and like have it be somebody who could have that dialogue with Aaron,
Yeah. Yeah.
it would have been a better moment.
Because I really think at the end of the day, Cy, Jessel, and Aaron are really, really good
Yes.
housewives. Raquel came in very strong, and I love Mel. I'm obsessed with Mel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Jenna, I think, is there not because she's such a good housewife, because she doesn't necessarily show her life like we think, but she's so New York City and
Mm-hmm.
she's so interesting. I do wish
I
we could just see Cass just pass
I
by in the
think
kitchen
you
with a
make
cup of
I think
coffee.
you make Jenna a friend. I think you make
Mm,
Jenna a friend where she can
okay.
be this person who mediates and sort of translates the message and gets through to people. She's kind of a connector, but she doesn't have to show her life. It's not as frustrating to not see, because I agree. I would love to have seen a moment like that, but we never got it.
Yeah.
Make her a friend, and she can still pop in when she wants. It kind of alleviates her from the pressure. It keeps her relevant because she's still on the show, and then it frees up space for somebody who is willing to be a little bit more open and
Yeah.
dramatic.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you, every time I look at Raquel and that hair, I'm like, man, I bet her head hurts. She pulls that hair so tight. I'm
Oh my
like,
god,
oh my
it looked heavy
God.
too.
It looks heavy. And I just find her fascinating. I found her life
I
before where she
agree.
was
I really
married to
like
a
her.
guy and they were like in that art world. And then they had this like divorce. And then now she's with a woman. I just find her whole story very fascinating.
I agree. And I think that she's done a pretty good job of getting into the mix on this reunion, which was my big hang up about her. Like, can she get into the group
Mm-hmm.
situations? And I think that she has done a pretty good job in this reunion of proving that she can and she's willing to. So I think that I would love to see Raquel back because there's something to be said about just somebody who you genuinely who you gravitate towards and like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
just very naturally, and she's very cool. So
Very cool.
I
Yes.
agree. Like there's more there and I'd like to see more.
Yeah. All right. So Beverly Hills this week, Sutton goes home to Augusta, Georgia. And boy, did I feel that in my Southern heart.
Mm,
I
mm,
felt every minute of that with her mom. And
yep.
wow, I felt it. I felt for her to go so far as to say, my mother is a narcissist and I married a narcissist. I was like,
That was wild.
whoa.
Yeah, that was wild.
Because I don't get from the 4 minutes of screen I've ever seen this woman, I didn't get narcissist from it. I just more got like very stoic Southern lady. Like, we don't talk about our emotions. I have many of those women in my family as well. We
Mhm.
just don't talk about it. We don't talk
Right.
about these uncomfortable things. We're Southern and we just keep it
I know it.
going.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I didn't get narcissist from her mom, but obviously she knows better than we do.
Yeah, totally, totally. Like, I agree with that, and I think that for her to throw that out there, seemingly fairly casually, was really notable. It was notable.
And for them to drive up to that home and for that, which is just a second, third, fourth, fifth home for her. And she's like, well, we bought this in Augusta because my husband and I, and then so we just put mom in the back house. It was just like,
Which
we
is a full
put,
ass house.
it's a full house. And she's just like, she just lives out there. And it was very interesting for her to say when she was getting a divorce from her husband, who obviously she gets what did we find out? $300,000 a month,
300K. Yeah,
a
uh-huh.
month. That
Insane.
obviously her mom was like, "Why are you giving up this money train?" But it was interesting that she was like, "No, she wasn't because she was sad about my marriage. It was because
She wanted our house.
how's it going to affect her?
Yeah, which is
Who's going to
that's the
pay for these
narcissist.
things?
That's the narcissist thing,
Who's going to
you
pay
know?
for these things if you divorce him?" She didn't have any grasp that Sutton could do it on her own.
No, she lacks. I mean, I think I guess next week Garcelle will say that she should tell Sutton she loves her, but she
Mhm.
clearly lacks like a emotional connection, like an ability
Yeah.
to relate on that level.
Does Sutton have
So
siblings? Do we know?
I forget. I feel like she.
I
That's a
feel
good
like
question. I don't know.
I don't either. I feel like maybe she has a brother, but we definitely
I'm pulling
don't.
out my phone as we talk just to we'll
Okay.
circle back.
Okay.
Sutton.
'Cause it would be
The way the
interesting
yeah,
this
I agree.
what the siblings' experience would be, and if it was a boy, if the boy has a different experience than the girl, because that's a pretty typical Southern thing too, is that the girls have very different relationships with their mothers, you know?
Sutton does have a brother.
Okay.
You know, she wished him happy birthday on Instagram 3 years ago. So,
Okay, well, 3 years
yeah,
ago. Okay, well,
that's the first thing that came up on Google. So,
okay, well, hopefully they're doing all right. I would be
yeah,
interested to see how that is,
I agree.
how Sutton relates with perhaps if he's married, all of that, and if he is held to the same standard. You
Yeah,
know, because we know Sutton was a
he gets in the
ballerina
way.
and maybe her
Uh-huh.
mom didn't think that was good enough,
Oh,
you know?
true. That's a good point. Yeah, I think that like it was a really um eye-opening thing to see from Sutton, I think, because it's like I think one of the things that one of the pieces of criticism that Sutton gets is to not that she's not opening up enough. I think she's just opening up in a different way, in a way that maybe the other women already have. You know, like
Mhm.
we've gone home with Erica. We've learned a lot about Kyle's at home life or from growing up. So I think this is Sutton's moment to like open her life up in this way, which is
Yeah,
different from like, you know, her relationships, but it informs a lot of her life, and I feel like I already feel like I sort of know her better because I also feel like Sutton was acting a little different around her mom, you know,
totally.
like it's telling. It's very telling.
Well, yeah, she's just like, "I wanna impress my mom. I want my mother to be proud of me." Why? Why do we care? Why you know, she's obviously, you know, on her own done a lot in her life, and she doesn't need her mom to approve her, but somehow it's still in there, and then, of
Yeah,
course, you have the dad's suicide weighing into all of this story.
totally.
And obviously her mom's got like a new man, you know?
What was it? The Jim, her quote quote friend.
So, it was interesting too about Garcelle giving her that scarf
Yes. Oh my God. That
and
was
her just being like, "Okay, what oh, it's a scarf? Okay, great." Yeah.
yeah. I felt very uncomfortable for Garcelle, and I think
Me
there's
too.
like there's some subtext there, obviously, and like I don't, but it's like
Yeah. It's
Garcelle
not
brought her a gift, and it wasn't received very well, which was unfortunate.
I love how Garcelle's like, "I went to Saks Fifth Avenue and picked that out and put it in
Got
a
it wrapped.
box and
Uh-huh.
yeah, got it wrapped."
Brought it on my
Yeah.
commercial flight.
Yeah, commercial flight. That's funny because they did it more
That
than
was
once.
funny.
But they did do that, like, special thing that you could do where they drive you right to the airplane,
Mhm.
whatever that special service is called. I've just heard about it. I've
Must be nice.
never
Must be
done
nice.
it myself, never done it
Yeah.
myself.
Me neither.
All right, let's talk about the dinner at Kathy's with the
Yes.
Capri theme. I loved that you posted, I think it was on Blue Sky where you posted, and I was like, I was just about to say this. I cannot believe Dorit did not mention, "Kathy, you're copying my Capri theme because of the Buca de Beppo." I
There
can't
was
believe
no
she didn't say it.
mention. There was no mention of her iconic Capri-themed Buca de Beppo room at Kathy Hilton's dinner that was Capri-themed. I don't. She must have. She must have said it, and they cut it out, right? Like I'm like, it
She
is
had to have
such a.
mentioned it.
It's such a through line. It's such a through line.
Or do you think she's so reverent and so, like, scared of
Maybe
Kathy that she's, like,
that's
wouldn't wanna
possible.
insult Kathy?
That's possible.
'Cause,
Yeah.
Kathy definitely doesn't know about that Buca de Beppo
She
room.
doesn't want to be compared. She doesn't want to be compared to the Buca de
Mm-mm.
Beppo in the valley. Like that's not what we're doing here.
Did you see, though, when they were serving the food and she's like, "Where's the basil? Where's the dill? Where's the veal?" And it's just, like, so many people coming out with so many dishes. It's 4 people eating.
And in those moments where she's talking to the servers,
Mhm.
you see
Mhm.
more the real Kathy, and that's
Yeah,
that's
you do.
that's why a couple years ago when Paris Hilton had that Peacock show,
Yeah.
I loved that show so much because it was such an inside look into what Kathy's actually like versus like the shtick that I love on Beverly Hills, but
Yeah.
it's a shtick, and so we get little peeks into that, which is kind of like Paris Hilton, who vacillates between the high voice and low voice, and it's the
Mhm.
character and not the character. Same with Kathy on this show. So
I gotta tell you, Paris, her house burned down in the
mhm,
fires, and she was at the Grammys, and I, sort of had the red
right,
carpet on, I was just sort of doing my thing around my house, and they were talking to her, "Well, we know we're so sorry to hear about your house," and she was like, "Yes, and what I'm doing," and she was explaining it. I literally did it. I was like, "Who is that?" Because
right,
the voice was her
yeah.
regular lower
Mhm.
register voice
I'm
because she was
telling you.
talking about a serious subject.
Yeah, I'm telling you that they do the same thing, and Paris has been doing it her entire career, and
Crazy.
on Paris and Love, that show was, like, so fascinating because you they flip back and forth all the time between it, and it's like, you just
Paris
never
in
know.
Love, I watched one episode, and there was an episode where she was moving or something, and she goes into her den and she pulls up a pillow that's like a picture of her face, and she picks it up and goes, "Oh my God, look at us," like in this high voice. And her husband or whatever comes in the room. She's like, "Babe, remember we had like 20 of these
Exactly,
in the same
exactly. Mhm.
conversation." It's
Yep,
like,
it's
whoa,
yeah, it's wild.
it's gotta be
Yeah, so anyway,
confusing.
I feel like Kathy talking to those servers, asking for more, like, fresh whatever the fuck it was,
Mhm.
that was her.
That was her. Now let's talk about this 10-year theory with PK.
Yeah,
Valid.
I
Valid.
think it has to be valid.
Speaking of Tom Cruise, that's what he did with Nicole Kidman. Mhm,
Totally.
mhm, filed
Yeah,
it right at 9.5.
it
Yep,
has to be valid. I mean, Erica knows what she's talking about because it was done to her,
yep.
and, I thought that Erica bringing that up and Erica
Pushing her, and I
Erica
liked
was
it.
pushing her, and I liked it too because this is her reaction to that scene from a couple episodes ago when her and Dorit went to the spa, and Dorit was like, "I need you to have my back. I need you to defend me. I know you're in the middle, but you're
Mhm.
defending Kyle way more than you're defending me." And this is Erica's reaction to that, and this is a good friend react. Like I love that Erica reacted in such a strong way, telling Dorit what she needs to hear, which is a difficult thing to hear. She was like, "Get a lawyer. Like you like this
He
is
doesn't want you back.
he
There's
doesn't want you back." She
mm-mm.
gave her a couple hard truths in that dinner scene, and I loved to see it. I thought that was a really good side of Erica.
I liked Kathy, saying, "Tell me about what's happening," and she goes, "I'm asking the real questions." Like, Kathy's like, "I really
Mhm.
wanna know." Like, and then I think they were all just, like,
Yeah.
straight to the point with her, and I think it was good that Bose was there as a new friend too, being like,
Mhm.
I think it was
It was a
hopefully
really
oh,
good little group dinner, and,
it was. That was
I
a good
also
group.
thought that, like, for Dorit to go there in terms of calling him a bad father, which she has since on the after show, she sort of walked it back. She's like, "No, he's a good father." But for her and so she was clearly angry in that moment, but for her to go there and to say that, to me, that sort of should dispel any sort of lingering conspiracy that, like, this is all fake and all for show. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
for her to
right.
go there and be like, "PK's a bad father," like, I wouldn't
Mhm.
necessarily say he's a good father. That's real shit. Like, and if this is all fake for the show, like, then she would not have called, and if she had every intention of getting back with him eventually, she wouldn't call him a bad dad. That's a line she has not crossed yet until now.
That's when Kathy said, "Well, at least he's a good father," and she goes, "No, he's not." I was
She
like,
goes wrong.
"Whoa,
She goes wrong. Yep. Mhm.
wow." And she
Yeah.
looked really, really thin. I hate to, like, comment on people's bodies, but she looked so thin in this episode. I was like, "Oh, Dorit, take care of yourself.
Yeah, it's
Don't,
something we see a lot, I feel like, on Housewives. It's like when people are going through these things, it just sort of like
They start
yeah,
to kinda fade
yeah,
away." Oh.
yeah.
Um, well, I would talk about Potomac, but we don't have time. But I will say I'm very much looking forward to whatever shit is going to go down on this reunion.
I know.
Now,
I know.
have you seen any of it? Because sometimes you see things.
I have not seen any of it. Usually those screeners come on Fridays.
Okay.
But there's no new episode of Potomac this week because of the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
So they're
Yeah.
not airing the reunion until the 16th or whatever.
Okay.
But I think that, like, that's what I'll say. I think that the Potomac reunion looks effing amazing.
It does.
The season earned a 2-part reunion, and this is a 3-part reunion, which means that the content on reunion day was so good
Yeah.
that they made it into 3 parts.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes, it wasn't a great season of Potomac. Sometimes a really great reunion can really right the ship on a franchise, on a show.
Well, New York, I think, is an example.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that this end of the Potomac season and the reunion are the same thing. It's kind of a similar thing happening where it's like, there's a lot of threads to follow right now for Potomac, and there's clearly a lot of shit comes up on this reunion, and they know how to do a reunion really well on that franchise. And so I'm excited for the reunion, and also what it means for the health of the franchise too.
Me too. And I gotta say, Giselle finally, after 10 years or however many, like nailed it at a reunion look. I was
Amazing.
like, yeah,
Looks amazing.
she always looks terrible.
Because she's so gorgeous.
She's
Yeah.
so incredible.
Oh my God. She looks incredible.
They showed her. I was like, oh my God, finally she got a stylist, Giselle. She looks great. Yeah. I've heard that the shit that comes out is about TJ saying that Stacey was paying him to be her boyfriend. And that'd
be crazy.
That would be crazy. It would
That'd be crazy, and it would also make her look really bad and really insincere. Yeah.
You do understand who her ex-husband is like, he's Audi.
Really?
Audi. His family is Audi.
Oh. And that's the German thing, yes.
German car maker, Audi.
Okay. That tracks.
I wouldn't divorce him for nothing.
Ah.
I would be like, I'm gonna stick this out. We can live in separate houses.
You get to 10 years.
I'm getting to 100. I'm like, I don't care. You have to kick me out of here. We got that Audi money. Come on now. Oh my gosh. No, I'm just kidding. I don't recommend that. Gibson, tell everybody where they can find you and your amazing podcast.
Yes, my podcast is called Gabbing with Gib, at least twice a week, wherever you listen to this great show. And my Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, everything is at Gibsonoma, Gibsonoma. And yeah, thanks for having me again. I promise we're going to schedule you on my show in the next coming weeks. So everyone go follow Gabbing with Gib to get this episode. Yeah,
Gabbing with Gib, and he has great interviews on there. And something's always coming up where I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the interview with Gibson.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. That's so nice.
All right, thank you, Gibson. I appreciate it.
Thanks.